Welcome to the 1 Million Years of Joy podcast. I'm Dr. Andrea Benaker, your host, and my intention is to inspire you to find more joy in your life through the stories from our guests and the science on joy and purpose. Jenny, it's such a pleasure to have you with us today.
Hi, Andrea. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to speak with you today.
Jenny, you're a brand strategist that is on the Thinkers50 list. You're an HBR, Fast Company and Forbes Contributor, and also a professor at Columbia and NYU. Given your impressive career spanning over 2 decades, can you share with us what have been the most memorable moments that have brought you the most joy?
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. It's such an amazing question. And it's a very difficult question. I don't know if I can pick any one moment, but actually I'll share with you one moment in my life and in my career where my work actually took me to China. I got to live there as an expat for 3 years. And what I found most joyful and why that came up as the number one experience was because it really challenged me as a leader to enhance my skills. You know, in the US, having grown up as a marketer and a business leader in the US, we were always at the hub of the wheel, kind of the top of the wheel, where all of the cross-functional teams were there to support us as business leaders to move the business forward. But when I was in this global role, managing the Oreo brand for Asia Pacific, I really had to step into new leadership skills. So I became more of a humble leader, where one of the first initiatives that I had to do, Andrea, was really establish myself as a collaborator, as a partner to the other people who were owning the P&Ls in those local countries, because otherwise they would have seen me as an American trying to come and tell them how to manage their business. And I really wanted to, again, position myself as a partner, as a collaborator, as somebody who was going to open up seats at the table for them to sit along with me to create a better strategy, to create a better innovation pipeline for the future of their business. One of the things that I would always use in my introduction to them was the fact that we're in this together. My success is your success, so that they could start seeing me more as a collaborator, as somebody who's there to co-create versus to take cover. So that is just really, I think, an amazing experience and time in my life, because it was the beginning of a great moment of growth as a leader.
Beautiful. And I know you often talk about pursuing a portfolio career. Can you tell us more about that, please?
Yes, of course. I believe that this is a newer trend that we have seen in the past, 4 to 5 years, especially with the newer generations. But basically what I have done, and this was really also as a result of my introduction to leadership coaching. When I came back as an expat from Asia, I was introduced to the world of coaching like almost 10 years ago. And I started creating personal goals. Actually, that's how I started teaching. So I was able to really realize that I could be the source of all of the new initiatives, of all of the new projects, hobbies that I wanted to create, versus waiting for the opportunity to be presented to me. So this is something that, again, it's at the core of leadership coaching, and why actually that became one of my portfolio careers. Today, I continue to be a marketing leader, and I do consulting as a marketer from a marketing strategy perspective. But I also wear the hat of a professor. I teach marketing and leadership both at Columbia University and New York University. I am a contributor, as you mentioned, at Harvard Business Review and Fast Company and Forbes. And what I do in those high publications is really share my leadership learning in the areas of branding, in the areas of executive presence, networking, innovative thinking, strategic thinking, so that leaders can, again, become the source, not only within their business world, but also in their private life. And that's how I basically have created a portfolio career that helps me to continue to be relevant and continue to evolve.
And as a result of all these beautiful contributions that you're making, what insights do you aim to impart on the next generation of marketers and business leaders?
What I hope to impart is really to help them become aware, to elevate their self-awareness that it's in them. So, there already are successful leaders who have established themselves. If they're the younger generation, they bring a wealth of information. Like Gen Z is the first fully digital generation. So they still have a lot of strength and knowledge in different aspects that they can fall back on. But frankly, what I want to instill is this idea that they can be the source of change, that they can be the source initiating new projects, new opportunities. Because sometimes I think what happens is that leaders at every stage of their life, they become so focused on their work that they forget that they need to be more broad thinking, that they can connect the dots, that they can create new opportunities, new dots, and new trends where they can establish themselves. So what I do in my leadership coaching work is really help them create what I call as a personal development plan, where they can create goals for advancing their existing projects, but also creating new opportunities. And Andrea, you might say, well, I may not know what new opportunity I want. And that is completely fine. And what I tell my clients and those leaders, those young leaders as well, is that the only way to create your future is to talk to people, to explore, to, especially now in the world of AI, to get to know new technologies. I don't know if you know this statistic that only, I think about 60% of the people know and have experienced Gen AI, but only 15 to 20% have actually used it on a regular basis. So if they don't become empowered to put it into practice, then they're not going to become experts and may fall behind as the world continues to change and evolve.
What advice do you have for leaders in order for them to embrace more openly AI in their day-to-day activities, but also as something that can allow them to ultimately enhance their careers moving forward?
That's a really great question. I think right now what we're seeing is a lot of organizations basically almost in a race to catch up, right, with OpenAI. They're trying to figure out how they can leverage AI as a way to automate what they do today. And I feel that is the ground, that's a starting point. There's so much more opportunity to figure out and innovate and think about how you can create and integrate AI to help you be a better leader, almost to enhance your ability to create new innovation, to create new work. So I encourage leaders of all stages of the organizations, from Gen Z to people who actually, have the power and the decision to manage budgets, to think about how they can, well, first of all, ensure that they have the right data, because AI is only as useful as the data that you have, right? So cleaning the data that you have available, ensuring that you're working with collaborators and partners that can give you data that is useful and that has integrity so that you can use it with AI. But frankly, I think companies have the opportunity to, first of all, just allow their employees to use existing tools. Many organizations do allow employees to have access to ChatGPT and other AI tools, but many other employees actually block it. And those who do block it because of IP, I think they should consider investing in their own AI tools so that they still are empowering their employees to learn, to evolve, and that they can get the benefits of it as well. Because the world will continue to change and continue to evolve. AI is not going away. It's actually going to increase even more how we use it. So if I were to talk to just a leader, even if they have to do it in their own personal life, I would say start becoming more adept at prompting those Gen AI tools so that they can learn how to ask the right questions. Because what I have seen about Gen AI is really the iterative process of asking questions, analyzing the results, the data, validating it. Because one negative point of the AI tools is that it doesn't quite validate the information. And you want to make sure that whatever you're using is something that is real, that is not what they call hallucinations, which is when Gen AI creates information. So you want to make sure that the information that you're getting is real, is valid, and that you're able to continue to iterate so that you are, again, helping elevate your thinking faster and better. I think that is the whole point of AI, to help you be a better leader.
Indeed, as you've mentioned, AI is a necessity in today's world. And in
Yeah.
fact, Peter Diamandis said that there would be two types of companies by the end of this decade, the ones using AI and the ones that will be out of business because they're not using
Yes.
AI. Do you believe that statement?
I do. And the reason for that, Andrea, is that the change is happening at an unprecedented rate. If you look at the third industrial revolution, which I think most of us and our viewers experience, it was really the internet revolution, right? And that happened, that was between 1990s to maybe 2015, where it took several decades for direct to consumer to explode, for companies like Amazon, which really opened up the supply chain for, entrepreneurs to actually ship their products from their own home and their own local businesses. It just really exploded over 2 decades. But as we have seen just in 1 year, Gen AI has exploded, and you have, oh my God, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of founders and entrepreneurs all around the globe launching new businesses in every industry. Just in healthcare, we're seeing so many Gen AI companies integrating that into developing new medicine, into creating digital healthcare, which is really going to help us live better lives. So I completely agree with Peter Diamandis when he says that it's going to be companies who use it and companies who are they're out of business, because if you don't even catch up to use it to automate and become more productive, that is just going to become again kind of the floor, the grounding. You then are going to have to use it to grow, because otherwise you're not going to grow faster than your competitors.
And in the world of branding, more
Yeah.
specifically, that you're an expert in, what role do you see AI playing?
Oh my gosh, yes. So I think AI is going to be pivotal in helping enhance some existing trends that we have seen for the past couple of decades. One of them being personalization. I mean, can you imagine if you have an AI tool that helps a marketer to create personalized messaging and advertising just for you? It's not even for your entire kind of cohort or segment, but just for you as an individual. That would be fantastic. I think so. The idea of personalization, the idea of customization, custom making products that are just available to you. Imagine 3D printing something that you can co-create with AI. So I think there's a lot of opportunities in that perspective. At the same time, I think it's going to have a huge impact on the agencies and partners that marketers work with, because a lot of copywriting, a lot of the creative things that we are used to doing with humans now can potentially be automated, at least as a starting point. I also see it from a benefit perspective that it really challenges agencies and marketers to work on their personal brand, because you can no longer to rely on your work. You need to be known. So leveraging personal branding as a way to build your expert brand as a leader, as an agency, as an organization is really going to be pivotal for people to feel that you are worth the extra cost, right, of hiring a human versus hiring an AI tool or
Mhm.
service.
Very interesting. I know you're also contributing to Harvard Business Review, and I
Yes.
was reading one of your recent articles that was talking about how leaders can best prepare themselves to handle difficult conversations.
Yes.
And I think this is a reality for many leaders because sometimes things go super well and we have beautiful conversations, and others it becomes more challenging, and we need to provide those constructive feedbacks and criticism to help people grow and evolve, embrace new tools, as we've just spoken. Can you share with us some of the key insights that you've elaborated on in that article, please?
Yes, thank you so much. That's a new article that just came out yesterday, and I'm really proud of it. And this was I think, a great article that answers a very relevant problem. Right now, we're seeing 4 to 5 generations in the workplace, and this is creating a lot of friction, because you may have boomers who have seen the world adapt many times, but may not be as up to date with all of the technologies, or they may have certain expectations about the way of working. Basically very rigorous about doing the work, putting your time, waiting your turn, versus fast forward to Gen Z that, as I mentioned earlier, they grew up with the internet. They haven't been experiencing social media and owning an iPhone or a smartphone since the age of 12. So they don't know a world without technology. So they're used to information at the tip of their fingers. They're used to rewards, again, in real time. So for them, it's less about the time spent and more about the outcome. If I know the skill, if I produce the outcome, I should be rewarded, I should be promoted. So this creates a lot of friction. And in my article, I talk about empowering those middle managers, those people managers, HR teams to provide feedback to employees who may not be performing. And this cuts across all generations. But I think right now, middle managers have so much pressure because since the pandemic, they are working with employees with high levels of anxiety, rising numbers of people who are experiencing burnout. The first generation that again grew up with social media, they're experiencing high level of depression in the workplace. And also a new generation that, as I mentioned, is not willing to put in the time to let things happen. So if they don't feel their needs are being heard, they will quickly move on to what's next. So it leads to a high level of disengagement, a lack of motivation, and attrition. So I think with that, it's just helping empower those difficult conversations so that they're not about pointing fingers and saying, this is what you're doing wrong, but it's about sharing together the outcome and saying, how do we collaborate together to help you be more successful? Because again, the employee success is also the manager's success.
At the end of the day, it's really about infusing more joy in the workplace.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, exactly. Thank you for bringing that back to joy, because one of the key aspects about motivation and engagement is happiness in the workplace. And I don't know if you have heard this phrase that when you have a best friend at work, that is actually when you feel the happiest, because that person is somebody that has a close in shared experience emotionally, mentally, and it's somebody who you can truly relate with. So growing up together, having that connectedness in the workplace is really key to bringing joy back.
So, Jenny, I know you recently just delivered a TEDx talk. Can you share with our audience the topic? I know the talk is going to be released in the coming weeks, but we'd love to hear what it was all about and the key insights and exciting moments that you've lived from that experience.
Yes, no, thank you, Andrea. And I know you had your own talk as well, which is marvelous. So, my gosh, doing a TED talk, I think it was such a great learning experience. And even though I'm a speaker, I speak in podcasts, and I'm a writer, I realized that this was something totally different. So actually, I do what I preach and I tell people to do. I hired a coach. Even though I am a coach, I hire a coach that focuses on these TED Talks that was going to help me create something more meaningful. And he was truly super helpful because it allowed me to create a topic that really, I think, digged into something that is very relevant and meaningful today, which is really how do we empower the next generation? How do we empower Gen Z to find meaning in work? We were talking just now about joy in the workplace, and there's very low levels of engagement, especially coming from Gen Z. 54% of them don't feel engaged at work, which is the largest number that we feel. There's a high level of attrition. McKinsey has highlighted that 70% of Gen Zers who have a job are looking for a second job and are looking to leave because they don't feel seen or heard. So this was a very much kind of a passion point for me as a teacher, as somebody who is looking into the future in terms of legacy. How do we create a better world? And this is something that, again, it was very keen to me, as a lot of the things that have impacted that generation were outside of their control. So my coach really helped me create a talk that focused on bringing the audience along by providing, again, insight to all of those different elements that impacted, all of those trends that impacted the generation, and then helping them get to their own conclusion. So I talked about, I talked about social media, again, the first digital native generation. I talked about even helicopter parenting, how the impact of parents while again done with very good intentions, but overprotecting our kids really kind of diminished their ability to be adaptable and to be resilient. And then I provided solutions and asked business leaders as well to ask themselves, how can they create what I call moments of healthy friction? So teaching moments where they have the opportunity to fail. And it's okay, because if they fail, it's a learning moment, a teaching moment. And if they don't and succeed, then they're able to, again, become more resilient, to achieve results, to see the fruits of their labor, and to, again, feed into what creates a successful leader and ultimately a successful career.
I love that. Really look forward to listening to your TEDx talk. And as we're talking about joy, and one of the questions that I wanted to get your view on, what do you believe we would need to do collectively to bring more joy to the world? And I want to connect the dots now with your branding expertise. So if you could actually
Yes.
create a billboard about joy, what would it say?
Oh my gosh. Well, first, I love the billboard, and it would definitely be a combination of copy, words, and pictures. So I
Okay.
think it would have a picture of a group of people together, friends. So the connectivity would
Yes.
be a really big part of joy, because what brings joy to us as individuals is creating that shared experience, knowing that we're not alone in the world, that we're all in this together. One word that I would add, or a visual, would be laughter, because I think we have to laugh, whether it's sad moments, we have to, get to a point where we have gone through all of the emotions, but we have to laugh and look back and realize that I came out of that. I thrive to be, past that. Sometimes we feel that uncertainty is, again, creates anxiety, but it's really very small in the scheme of things. So I would have people in the picture, connectedness, community. I would have, again, laughter, because humor, laughter, and joy creates levity, that things are not as bad as we think they are. And I would add the word perspective, because if we keep things in perspective, we're going to realize that, hey, this is just a moment. And I am right where I'm meant to be. This is just a moment that was a teaching moment for me to get to where I need to go. And this is something that I think many of us, sometimes we forget when we're so focused in the present. But when we have the perspective, almost like a lens, like, a new lens, we see life from a different light.
Indeed, and as you've just said, sometimes even the negative experiences or the failures that we go through allow us to evolve and grow as long as we look at them with that perspective rather than defining who we actually are and understanding that we are all growing, evolving human beings. And it's a beauty of life, actually. So, this brings me to the next question I wanted to ask you. As a result of all the numerous things you've done
Yes.
in life, personally and professionally, what's the most adventurous thing that you've ever done? And can you share the story with us?
Gosh, I would say, if I were to look at life in general, it's kind of funny. I think it would just be experiencing life in different countries. I was actually born in Latin America. And so my first move when I came to the US at 12, it was because of my parents. So they decided to take us to look for new opportunities, build a better future, in their hands, by relocating to New York, to the US. And I think I learned a lot from that, because it really created opportunities that were unforeseen. And it helped me, I think, empower me as an individual to know that even when everything is new, there is a joy in uncertainty, because not knowing what's out there means that you have the ability to create something new and unexpected. And I think I did that also when I decided to relocate to Asia Pacific, to China, where I have to tell you, Andrea, I had never been to Asia. And I literally took a flight for 1 week to China and just to, hey, let me validate that if I can make it here. And I went there and I felt, oh my gosh, this is a new city. I didn't know the language, but that's what happened when I moved to the US. I didn't know the language either. So I was not confronted by that. As I was going to the office from the hotel to see, to have my first lunch meeting with the president of the office, it's so funny because there were not enough taxis available. So I decided to walk there. And in the middle of it, I was just lost. And I see four, older Chinese men just hanging out at lunch, who didn't speak English. And I just showed them the address to where I was going. And they very friendly and with a smile, just pointed to one direction of the street. And I just did the thank you sign and the okay sign. And I moved forward. And it just brought me back to that. Hey, people are here to help each other. There's a joy in the unknown. There's connectedness, even when you don't know the language. And there's goodness in everyone. So I think that idea of embracing the unknown and embracing change from a positive light, because as Winston Churchill said, never let a crisis go to waste. It's just how you see it. Is it a crisis or is it just opportunity?
And as you think back on your life and you could travel back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh my gosh. It actually goes back to your theme, have more joy. Have more joy, have more laughter, take things less seriously, travel more. Because again, there's so much planning that you can do. And again, it's just reminding yourself that there's a great joy, a great opportunity in the unknown. So you don't have to plan everything, and you don't have to feel bad if the plans that you do have don't work out. Because at the end, it's about I don't know if you follow or if you have read the book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, but I feel like it's a classic and it's an evergreen. Start with the end in mind. Is the end result, is not how you get there. Just find joy in whatever journey life throws at you.
Indeed. And what were the obstacles? I'm curious, when you were younger, what were some of the obstacles that were preventing you from actually experiencing more joy in your life?
Oh, great question. I think it was probably just more, the structure that I think I needed to follow for the path that I was expecting. For example, I started my career actually in the sciences. I was an engineer. I was studying engineering at Columbia University. I was a math major. I was doing a dual degree. And for example, I didn't think I could go abroad on a study abroad program at Columbia because I was studying sciences. And I felt, how am I going to study sciences in France or in another country with a different language? So I held back pursuing, opportunities, for example, as just going abroad, because I felt my path doesn't allow me to do that. So I think it's maybe restrictions or in my own mind, what I thought needed to be the path, the plan in order to get to the end result versus just allowing it to happen. And I think that's just a quick example that comes to mind.
Can you share a fun fact about yourself that very few people know about you?
Yes. Gosh, let me see. I have traveled, I think, to most countries in Asia. And one of the countries that I visited actually is very interesting. I guess you might not think about it as Asia, but it's part, at least it was part of the region when we were there. It was really Australia. So when I went to Australia, one of the things that I did, which I found very joyful, well, 2 things. One, I got to see the penguins basically hatch and go to the sea. So that was a very kind of, natural experience there. And then the other one is I do find joy in man-made wonders. So I actually got to climb the Sydney Bridge, which was quite fabulous. So that's something that I always love, the grandiosity of things, both in nature, but also frankly, man-made. And those are 2 kind of juxtapositions for me from that experience.
I'm fully aligned with you on that because whenever I'm traveling, I'm just so much in awe with human creativity and some of the most amazing masterful beauties and constructions that we've created, or some people have created. And I'm like, wow, this is absolutely stunning. What a gift that these individuals have left behind for us to see. So it's
Yes,
really,
I completely agree. This is why I'm very big advocate of going abroad and traveling. Gosh, I mean, seeing the Eiffel Tower, seeing here the Statue of Liberty in New York, there's just so much wonder in the things and the meaning behind, right? What is the meaning behind big ways that humans manifest, right? The kind of the grandiosity and the achievement. So I really love learning and seeing that as well.
with all your international travels, what
Yes.
have you learned about joy from different cultures?
I think what I experience the most joy is really in meeting people. When you meet the people, when you integrate yourself as a local to the place where you're in, finding where they hang out, eating their foods, sharing, having a shared experience. Like, for example, gosh, I think it was in the late 2012 when I was in Paris, there was this big football game and they won, and it was such an amazing experience. The whole city threw themselves to the streets, and while it did seem a little chaotic, people were just happy and celebrating. And it just gave me and my sister who was with me and my friends the opportunity to experience something like a local that we would never have experienced if it had been planned. So really finding joy in meeting people, finding joy in spontaneity that happens, and in really experiencing something that you would only experience if you had the opportunity to live there. So I think, again, it's just because you feel connected to where you are. And that just really provides, I think, a lot of joy in the reality and the realness of the experience.
Yeah, I fully agree. Thank you for sharing. So, Jenny, any final thoughts or insights or words of wisdom you may wish to share with our audience? And if they wish to also get in contact with you, what would be the best way?
I would bring it back to allowing yourself the opportunity for joy, right? So, yes, we all need to have a plan, but things are not going to go as scripted. Life happens. And this is where I think we have to take every moment an opportunity to realize that, hey, this is just this was meant to happen this way. This is a teaching moment, whether it is a failure at work or the fact that you are presented an opportunity and you're trying to decide, should I do this? This is not what I plan to do. But realizing that if you look at things from a more broad perspective, you're allowing yourself to experience life and to find joy in different ways. Sometimes, especially in these days, as we talked earlier, Andrea, AI is creating a lot of anxiety for a lot of people because obviously we know change is coming. It's coming faster than we can even experience and train ourselves and be prepared for. But if we do our best, if we do one step, if we ask ourselves, what can I do today to get myself better prepared to face that uncertainty? I think that's something that is going to help you feel greater joy, feel less fear, and actually shift your mindset so that you are ready for opportunity. Because I don't know if you know the work by Professor Suzuki from NYU, but she has shared how actually the way that our brain works is that it uses the same part of the brain that experiences feelings such as fear is the same part of the brain that we will use towards creativity and innovation. So if our anxious brain is occupied with fear, we're prevented from having the ability to be innovative, to be creative, to be forward looking. So I think it's just managing our feelings and our expectations and getting the support that we need so that we can truly be joyful, we can be open to new opportunities, and we can create the future that we want to experience.
Thank you so much, Jenny. It's just been such a delight to speak with you. It's been a very joyful moment for me. So thank you for your time, and look forward to watching you continue to shine and do amazing things in the future.
Thank you so much, Andrea, for the opportunity. Thank you to your audience. I always encourage everyone to connect with me on LinkedIn. I create a lot of content, as you mentioned. So thank you for the opportunity to speak to you about this fantastic topic. How do we create more joy at work, at home, and just in life as we continue to create amazing things?